Hey, all my fantasy football friends, welcome to the Multiple First Dynasty Football channel here on YouTube. This is Stosh, Tony Stoll, coming at you with Greg with our Week 9 of the NFL season, baby. It's moving so fast. Week 9 breakdown for your Dynasty needs. How you feeling today, brother?
Man, I am exhausted after a week of too many buys, and it was not the most fun I've had in a fantasy week recently. So glad to be through it. Looking forward to a friendlier set of buys over the next couple of sets.
Yeah, man, I had a couple leagues where like my whole wide receiver group was on bye. Like I had one where it's like it's CeeDee Lamb and Deontay, and another one were just all on buys all at the same time. I had leagues where I didn't have any quarterbacks at all. Like I have Russ and Daniel Jones as a combo. In a few leagues, they were both out with no QB3 option.
Mm-hmm.
The bye weeks were brutal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I have one team where I started Gardner Minshew and hoped he got on. I hoped he got on the field in a blowout because I didn't have any other quarterbacks, and that's a contending team, right? And I was so far behind. I wasn't willing to go send a third across for Sam Ellinger or whatever it is because like I was gonna just lose by 25 with all the rest of my buys too.
Right.
You know, so
I threw Mike White out there in one of them. Because I thought,
there you go, right? Why not?
He might have got a shot too. Wilson got hit at one point there in the first half.
Why not? Yeah. Right? See, I thought we might have gotten a boat race with Philly and Houston.
Yeah,
and that unfortunately didn't come out for me. But anyway, it was tough, and I'm looking forward to moving back on to greener pastures next week.
You know, there's not a lot of news this week. I wanted to ask you a question, man. How do you enjoy football on Sunday? Do you just like sit around in the living room, like with the family, or like what's your way to get down with your Sunday afternoon? I'm curious about
that. Well, my kids are sort of growing into a little bit of football enjoyment. Let me actually digress a little bit. I took my kids to their first in-person football game on Saturday. We went to see the University of Houston at SMU, and they went ahead and put up 13 touchdowns for 91 points in the first half and scored 140 points. I think my kids are going to get some unrealistic expectations about how fun a football game is, but they scored the most points in a regulation college football game in like basically since the forward pass, 140 points. So it was a good time. So what I do, so my team, the Broncos, are usually a late window game.
Yeah, 4:00 game.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's so what I do is it's usually me and Red Zone for the early games, and then it's the whole family with the Bronco game in the late afternoon, and we get the we've been getting the Sunday ticket package, right? So we'll go Red Zone in the morning, and then Broncos in the 4:00 window, and then we usually watch like the first half of the Sunday night game, and then it's like you got to make a call.
It's bedtime or not? Yeah.
No. It's like is this game good, or do we want to go watch like House of the Dragon or whatever the you know what I mean? That's like the when the kids go to bed, then it's like do we want to finish the game, or do we want to go pivot to the prestige television? Right. So that's kind of how my Sunday goes, and it sort of depends. So it sort of depends how good the game is and how good the prestige Sunday night television show is, right? So.
I don't want to get too far down this rabbit hole, but you watched House of Dragon. Did you like it? I watched it and loved it. I thought it was.
I did. Good. Yes, I watched it. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. So for so we were usually dumping out of the Sunday night game at halftime,
right?
But now that's over, and so we're probably going to stick with it till the end more frequently. So yeah, that's it. I thought it was really good. Yes, House of the Dragon, guys. If you like Game of Thrones and then kind of hated the ending and it soured you on the entire property, you should come back for it. It was early season Game of Thrones quality. It was excellent.
It's great. Yeah, it's weird having no dinklage, you little Tyrion, but otherwise I really enjoy it.
Yes.
The dragons are sweet. But the reason I asked you because I had just a really good Sunday this week. Me and my partner, my girl, we got out our slow cooker and we melted down some cheese and we cooked up some meat and we had some chorizo with some chips and we just hung out and watched the game and we did that for like the 1 o'clock window and then I went out and hung out with one of my buddies. I went over to his house and watched some of the 4 o'clock window action there and then just came home and I didn't even watch that much of the late game, that Chiefs Titans game. I watched some of it, mostly the second half, but like just spent the first half with the family and I don't know. It's just Sundays are beautiful and I'm just curious how other people do their Sundays,
Yeah, no, that's a great question. That's a great question. All right, so let's get into our buys and sells.
Buys and sells, buying high, selling low. What are we doing?
All right, so I got a couple of enthusiastic buy highs for this week. I really liked what I saw from Cordero Patterson, and he was out for a long time. He honestly popped right at the beginning of the season, right? I believe he was a top 5 running back week 1, and so he was a cumulative running back 1 when he got hurt, I think.
He had 50 points across the first 3 weeks of the season.
Right, yeah. And so and then you didn't know quite what was going to happen. And Tyler Algier broke a long play and scored a touchdown, right? So he was very efficient with his touches. He had 100 total yards, but the snap share went all the way back to Cordero Patterson.
Yeah.
The short yardage went all the way back to Cordero Patterson. And if you need to rent a running back because you are a contender and you're not deep enough, I think pay up for Cordero Patterson. I wouldn't have said that 2 weeks ago because you didn't know when he was coming back and you didn't know what usage you would get when he came back, right? But and so now you have to pay a lot more than you would have 2 weeks ago, but you know what you're getting, and I think that's okay, right? So for me, pay up for Cordero Patterson if you are a contender and need to rent an older running back. You need a high-end running back 2 for the lowest price you can pay for that.
Yeah. I like that. There's several good buys at the running back position that are cheap, but Cordero's probably the best of them. If he's hard to get a hold of, I imagine, though, because at this point, he's just got to be on a contending roster. You know what I mean? Whoever has him is clinging to him. So
maybe not because he was hurt. Right?
Yeah,
he could be on an injury-plagued roster where he is one of several injuries, and they are now trying to sell those pieces off, and he just came back.
Yeah.
Right. And so look across your leagues, right? You might find a spot or two where he is on a contending roster, and they're thinking, hey, I'm going to sell him off of this good performance. Don't be afraid to go be the person who matches up with him.
Yeah, no, I'm down with that. I got a pretty decent buy this week. A player I was banging the drum for in the offseason. A guy, Josh Palmer for the LA Chargers, had a really good week this week. He had 10 targets, 8 catches, 106 yards. Did not find the end zone. But what you're looking at with Palmer is across his 2 games he played, his 2 most recent plays, is 22 targets, couple big target games early in the season, and I just like the talent on this guy. The coaching staff clearly trusts him. Herbert trusts him. He's big. He's an SEC receiver. I think he's still just kind of under the radar because he didn't have a lot coming out as far as hype, coming out of college. I remember there was a lot of smoke around when he was drafted. It was like, boy, what are the Chargers doing? Why are they spending this pick on this guy? But I talked about it in the offseason. Even if all 3 of these receivers are healthy, they could all be fantasy relevant and on any given week. There's enough volume, enough juice in this offense to support 3 receivers for fantasy. And when you're talking Williams or Allen out of it, sometimes both of them, like we saw this week, you have Justin Herbert's number 1, maybe his number 2 pass catching option. That's super valuable. They go for it on 4th down. They usually throw it when they do that. This guy is I think he's a good buy right now, personally.
Yeah, I think I think there's a lot to that. I actually streamed him in a couple of redrafts this week, and to good effect, right? So I think you are likely to get 1 or 2 more weeks where he's the number one, and then potentially, who knows how long where he's the number 2.
Yeah.
And I don't like starting him when he's the number 3 because I don't think this, because Gerald Everett is also involved and Eckler is involved. And so I don't like starting him right now when all of those guys are healthy, but that may not be till next year. It really may not.
I agree with you. He's a sketchy start when they're all healthy, but like Williams has not been a pillar of health by any means. He misses games regularly. Allen has been in the past, but he's missing a lot more games now. The last 2 years he's missed a chunk of games. So like, you got to think moving forward, these guys aren't going to get healthier. I mean, they're getting worn down. I'm not even, so arrows are pointing up for Palmer. If you can get him right now, if you could get Palmer for like a 3rd round pick, that'd be pretty sweet. Would you move your 23 second for Josh Palmer? I don't know if I would, but
I might be willing to move my 23 second for Josh Palmer and like that second rental piece.
Yeah.
Who's also old.
Like Patterson or like, a couple of the other running backs we'll get to later in the show here.
Maybe another wide receiver, maybe a tight end. Right, maybe an older tight end. I'm trying to think. Or, yeah. So I would be willing to, to move a contending 23 second for Josh Palmer and another piece, I think.
Who else are you buying?
I'm also buying Darnell Mooney.
The Moon Man. You're buying Mooney. You've been consistently pretty low on him in our.
Yes. Justin Fields turned the corner, and I think people are just a touch slow. Like Mooney went up, and people are just going to be a touch slow getting onto this freight train. That's my view. Like that is the depressed asset piece you can get. I consider Kmet too, but like those are the depressed asset pieces you can get with Fields blowing up, with Claypool, sort of the sexy name coming over. Those are the 2 guys, Mooney and Kmet, who are like, what have you done for me lately? Maybe.
Yeah.
And I think now is the time. Now is the time to go get them, because Fields is going to throw the football more over the coming year or 2. I think there's going to be more volume coming there. And this isn't like Mooney is not you're not buying as high as you would have in the off season still. Right. Yeah. But you're buying a lot higher than you were a month ago when he was just trash. And like, I'm just saying he hasn't bounced off that trash value fast enough.
Yeah, I agree. So you think, so Claypool arriving is good for Mooney, would you say?
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree.
In the sense that if it's good for Fields, it's good for Mooney.
Yeah, I like that. Just good for the offense. You got to think if you're a defensive coordinator against the Bears, it was easy to just put your number 1 coverage guy on Mooney, and at least now with Claypool out there, you have to make a decision. Where do you want to put your ace man coverage guy?
Absolutely. And I just want to throw this out there too. A guy who would have been my buy high this week if I hadn't used him last week is Terrace Marshall.
Yeah.
But like, man, that guy looks like all the stuff that he sort of had going for him coming out of LSU when he was going like 14th, 15th, 16th in rookie drafts a year and a half ago. He looks like he's putting some of that stuff together. He looked good with both PJ Walker and Baker Mayfield. And I really think Matt Rule was not going to put him on the field for reasons that had nothing to do with him being bad.
Yeah.
And that is crazy. That is crazy that a coach would run their career into the ground on like weird personal grudges and whatever. But it is super clear that Terrace Marshall belongs on the field, like more than Robbie Anderson did. But like it didn't matter. Like they were not going to let him get on the field.
No, just
it's weird.
Yeah. Just from a philosophy standpoint, I love like getting a hold of players that are like cast-offs from a regime, and then the new regime comes in, and not even a whole regime, but just like a switch in coaching, and then they're like worth taking a shot on as a buy low. Like Keyshawn Vaughn was a guy for me in the offseason. Like he hasn't panned out, but like the Bucs made a switch in coaching, and sometimes you can think like this player who was being underutilized was just in that guy's doghouse, that former coach, and now the new coach coming in is willing to get that player out there. I can't think of any other success stories. I don't even know if we can call Marshall a full success story yet, but like, where's another example of that? I can't even think of one.
Oh no, I know what you're saying. Like KJ Hamler, be an example of a guy you would buy in that day. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. I think it's a smart way to think about it. Yeah, but also I just think Matt Rule may have been really bad at his job.
I think he was. Yeah.
So I think sell low. I'm taking some low-hanging fruit here, but like sell Leonard Fournette for anything you can get because he's going to lose that job, man.
Rashod Wright looks like he has the juice.
He looks better.
He looks better.
He looks like the better player.
Yeah, he does.
Right?
Excuse me.
And so Leonard Fournette's value, you risk it going to 0 if he just loses that job and ends up sitting on the bench. And then, I don't know. Like, if they cut him, what is he going to do next year? Is anybody going to sign him? Or is he going to get a bunch of offers that he thinks are insulting, even though they're the real market for him? And he's going to be one of these guys who's sitting at home through training camp?
I could see that being for Fournette. Imagine if he gets hurt too. Like Fournette would go to 0 so fast if he got like a multi-week injury. He would just plummet, because he'd lose the job and then he's not under contract, and it's just there's so much.
If they just announced that White was the starter, he would go to near 0.
Yeah, he would drop off really hard.
Right. So like if you can still send Fournette and you're contending second for a contending first. Right, like you do that, right? If you can still send Fournette for Jameson Williams to a running back needy team, you know what I mean? Like you do that, right? Whatever it is, whatever asset maybe that they see as depressed, but you see it as a young asset, you get out of Lenny. All right, so now you have a spicy name on the sell low.
Yo, I got someone who was a darling of the offseason for most of the community, and a player that I've liked for his career so far, his young career, is Michael Pittman Jr. is a sell low for me. I'm willing to just get out on Pittman if I can. He's a guy who, it's rough for him moving forward. He doesn't have a quarterback right now. The schedule is rough. I mean, you're looking at like Philly, you got Pitt, you got the Giants. This Week 14 bye that he's looking at, that blows if you're his owner, because you probably got to win in Week 14. Most of us do to get into the playoffs. Losing in the last week of the regular season for fantasy is never a good sign. The guy's got a lot of name value. You could probably move him and still get a 23 first. Maybe you could move him straight across for a 24 first plus some juice, stuff like that. I would. I'm not feeling Michael Pittman. I'm not trying to say Alec Pierce is going to take his job or anything like that, but it's just like the Colts are in shambles. Their season's going to shut down here. I mean, and this might be a case where I'm selling Pittman now, and then come draft season next year, I'm buying him again for whatever his value levels out at. But it's looking ugly for Pittman. On KTC, he's still a top 20 wide receiver. I think he's wide receiver 19. Yeah. And if I could get a top 20 receivers worth of return for Pittman, I would definitely explore that.
Yeah. What is top 20 receivers worth of return?
Right. Like, so what's that look like?
What are the receivers on KTC that are 2 above and 2 below?
Yo, let's take a look at it. I'm bringing it up right now. I'll put it on the screen for y'all. I don't even know who else is around him. Boopa-doopa-doopa. Michael Pittman Jr. is currently sandwiched right underneath Devonta Smith and George Pickens, and he is just ahead of Jameson Williams and DJ Moore. I would I think DJ Moore and Pittman is a good comp. Who do you got between Moore and Pittman?
Yeah, so
It's
I see
tough.
what you're saying. So like
Mm.
if you're a contending team, I would rather go across to DJ Moore, I think, and I think I would rather go across to. And if you're a non-contending team, you'd rather go across to Jameson Williams. I think if I was a contending team, I might be interested in George Pickens too here.
Yep.
Um,
Pickens is
yeah,
so interesting
so
after this Claypool thing. Like, it's
he is to me he very much is.
yeah.
So, boy, yeah. Pittman was a fringe top 12 asset. He hasn't fallen that far. I think you could get out for him. Yeah, I think getting out for a very late 23 first to a contender, I could see a contender. I could see a contender wanting to make that deal if they were offered more help, but for older guys. I could see contender wanting to do that.
If I'm a Pittman owner, I'd be willing to just fire off a flyer of like Pittman for every team in my league's 23 first, like 1-for-1, and just see what hits. I'd be willing to take that shot.
Would you take a 24 first?
For Pittman straight across, boy, that's tough. No, I'd probably ask for a first and a second if it had to be that, and probably get it too, because you could. I found when I'm DMing people and negotiating, when you really talk about like time and how relevant time is, like a 24 first is 18 months or so till that matures, and just to not even matures, just becomes a player, and then that player has to mature. Those two players, if it's first and second, I mean, you're talking almost 2.5, almost 3 years of your life to see any return. So like, if you ask for a 2-for-1 like that, you can a lot of times convince that other owner, especially if they're hungry for points. They're a contending team.
I love it.
Yep.
All right, so let's see. You got any other players you want to buy or sell on?
Yo, who else am I buying or selling? Let's take a look. Yo, I'm buying tight end, rookie sensation, Cade Otton. Yo, have you heard about Cade Otton? There he is.
Yeah, Cade Otton. I've got a decent number of Cade Otton shares. Starting him in a few 2 tight end leagues.
Yeah, he's a guy you could have gotten like the late 4th round of your rookie draft. He's
late 4th, early 4th, but yeah,
sure.
but worth it. He was a top 100 and no, not top 100, top 105-ish pick. He was the first pick of day. Yeah, he was the first pick of day 3.
Oh, was he really? I didn't know that.
Yes.
Well,
yeah, day 3 started Otton. Day 3 started Otton, Dameon Pierce. Nice start.
With Otton, you're looking at a guy who's been a top 12 tight end for 3 of the last 5 weeks. He's got Tom Brady throwing him the ball. We all know Brady loves his tight ends. And Cameron Brate, I mean, he's got that concussion. Is he going to come back? I don't know. Is Otton just the number 1 tight end on this team right now? I don't really know. But I would be exploring getting a hold of Cade Otton from whatever his owner is. I mean, it's rough because the future, for the Buccaneers at quarterback, who knows what's going to happen. So, like, that might be a window to buy because his owner would be willing to sell him. But, I really like Cade Otton. I like a lot of these rookie tight ends this year, but he's one of them. Like him, Bellinger, likely. I'm in on these guys.
Dulcich,
I'm definitely in on Dulcich. I don't have any Dulcich. I don't think I have a single Dulcich, not one, and I'm so sad about that.
But like, what a class, right? Bellinger. Those are all 3rd and 4th round guys.
Mm-hmm.
Dulcich was a 3rd round guy, along with Jelani Woods, who has flashed.
Yeah.
And then 4th round, that's Otton, that's Bellinger, that's likely all together.
Yep.
Ferguson has looked solid at times too in Dallas. Like it's a heck of a tight end class, to be honest.
McBride will make some noise eventually too. I think I would expect. It just hasn't been his time yet. Another talented player who got the capital, and he's in a loaded offense. So,
another guy I'm selling here, or a guy I'm definitely selling, is I'm selling Joe Mixon on those 5 touchdowns.
Oh yeah.
In Dynasty, I don't trust Joe Mixon. I think he's getting very old, touch wise. He was due a bunch of touchdown regression before that game. He got the touchdown regression. If you can sell that Now he's almost due reverse touchdown regression. He's gone from 2 touchdowns to 7, overnight. And I think he's a guy I would sell high on. George Pickens is a guy I would buy low. I would buy low on. He's had a couple of bad games.
I don't think you can get Pickens low, man. No one's selling him.
I think he's a little lower than he was 2 weeks ago. He's maybe flat, but like he has had 2 bad games.
Yeah.
In a row. But you're right. I've already got so much Pickens.
I have so much.
Got anybody else you want?
I'm stoked for Pickens in the future. Sorry, I don't mean to cheese about it, but I can't wait to see what Pickens becomes.
Oh, I know.
Dominant receiver.
Who do you? I think you got one more. You want to sell?
Yeah, I got one more. Do I have another sell? Yeah, I got one more sell. I'm selling on Darrell Henderson Jr. right now. I think that you can sell Darrell in your leagues to maybe someone who's running back hungry and get something out of him still. But yeah, this offense is just in shambles, and with the exception of Cooper Kupp, I'd probably be willing to sell any piece of it for just whatever I could get. I mean, I don't know, like. The tight end Higbee, he's been good. I don't know if I'd let him go because tight end's so gross out there. But like, Henderson has been darn near useless. He's barely touching the ball. He's only broken through double-digit fantasy points in PPR once in the last 8 weeks. This Kyren Williams is coming in there. Yeah, I don't.
Akers is back.
Akers is back. Is he going to do something? You got.
I don't know, but he saw a lot of the field.
Yeah. But like, Henderson can go. I don't even know what you'd sell him for. Would you sell him for a third? Probably think about it. Third's pretty low. Yeah.
Like, I mean,
third and fourth together. Yeah, I like that.
If I'm a rebuilding team, would I take a third for him? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would.
Mm-hmm.
Third and fourth together, yes, something like that. Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's go on to our 24/7 365 league. We made a trade this week.
We made a sweet trade. Yeah, we did.
We made a trade this week. We traded Deontay Foreman for a 2025 first-round pick.
I love it. Look at that. 25 first. That's the first 25 first I've acquired in any league right there. It's the first 25
for
pick
sure.
at all. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The guy was off. So the guy did not have any 23 pick.
Mm-hmm.
And his first pick in 2024 was a third.
Yeah.
Right. And so he was offering like a third and then in 24 and a third in 25. Like, I'm not really interested in thirds for Foreman, even if they're now. I'd have taken a 24 second. He then offered a 25 second. But that's too far for me if I'm not getting it first.
Yeah.
For a player who I think is really worth a 23 second. He didn't have a good week this week, but I think he's gonna finish very strong. I have a lot of pieces of Foreman. I'm not looking to get out of all of them. I think he's gonna do well.
Yeah, I love the trade. I love getting these teams picks that's like 2 or 3 years away, and just because that team could just collapse. I mean, let's look at what
he's pushed too far in, right? I think he will. He's pushed too far in.
Yeah, Cousins, Fournette, Kamara, Thielen, Evans, Taysom Hill. He's got
old.
Mahomes. I mean, that's cool. Nick Chubb, J-Rob.
But like, what's Nick Chubb going to be in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, what is
it?
Right,
because this is 2025 pick,
yeah,
right? Yeah. Like I think this this team has no picks.
Yeah, and he doesn't have anything to refuel himself with. I mean, it's just going to be. He's got Jonathan Taylor and Keenan Allen down here. There's Waller. Geez, this guy is pretty loaded. But
it's an old.
But it could all
team.
collapse in a year or two. I mean, it could. So I love taking a shot on that pick. It could be. We're looking at. I don't even know a 25 prospect, but could be a 101 that we're. I mean, probably not a 101, but it could be a top 3 or 4 pick by then. Yeah. It's fantasy, baby. We don't even know. I can barely project the 24 class, 23 class, and talk about 3 years out. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like he's gonna he's got the one quarterback, but like the running backs, he doesn't have any that like his running backs and his wide receivers could just all be gone in 2 years. So that to me is was a really exciting pick for us to get. Like. A lot of pieces of that team, Keenan Allen, Julio Jones, Darren Waller, that aren't going to be around in 2 years. Jeff Wilson is going to be James Conner. That's a very old team in some ways. So very excited. That went well. So let's talk about some other players on our roster. And let's do this as a sort of an example for how to hash out your own roster in your own head at this time of year if you're thinking about being a seller. So let's talk about a few players that we have. Deion Jackson. Would you trade Deion Jackson now for whatever you can get, thirds and fourths? Or would you try to hold him and hope that they put JT on the shelf?
Yeah, I would definitely wait for further Jonathan Taylor news. JT could, if they put him on the IR tomorrow, would you be surprised?
No,
I wouldn't either.
Not at all.
Not at all. No way.
I get lost season vibe. Oh gosh, can we? I was about to say I get lost season vibes about the Colts, and we haven't talked about the Frank Reich, Jeff Saturday stuff.
Yeah, it's so wild, man. He wasn't even on the coaching staff. They just brought him in from outside to be the head coach, right?
He has never been a head or assistant coach at the professional or college level. He was a high school. Yeah. He was a high school football coach and an ESPN analyst, I believe, is what he was.
I always enjoyed him on ESPN. I know that, and I enjoyed him when he played center. But man,
he was a high school football coach briefly.
It's crazy. It's an insane move, man. Irsay is just. He's just going to do what he wants. He don't care.
Is it tanking?
Is it tanking? That's a good question. I don't know. No.
I kind of feel like you promote Jeff the janitor instead of a beloved figure if you were hoping they embarrass themselves.
It's not tanking. They're going to keep trying, but it's probably not going to work too well for them.
What do you think about their quarterback situation?
It's ugly. I haven't even watched that much of the Colts. I haven't seen too many snaps from Ellinger. Why don't you speak to it? Have you seen him at all?
A little bit. So my understanding is Matt Ryan is due $17 million of guaranteed money next year if he can't pass a physical on March 1st or 2nd.
Okay.
Right? And that is my understanding. $17 million of guaranteed money. He has $17 million of non-guaranteed money that becomes guaranteed if he can't pass a physical in March. Right? And that's why he's not on the field. He's definitely the better player. Ellinger is just a disaster. Mm-hmm. And then they have Nick Foles there. And I kind of think in your deep leagues you might want to add Nick.
I've been adding Foles. I'm waiting for him to take over.
I think that's the place they go when they try to stop the bleeding but aren't willing to risk Ryan getting hurt. Ryan was leading the league in sacks, right? So that's one of the reasons you don't want to have him exposed to that injury. It's a huge injury risk.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I agree with you. They may shut down the season. And if they do, they may shut down Taylor. So you hold Deion Jackson. Dalton Schultz. How do you feel about Dalton Schultz?
Dalton Schultz. I like holding him just because I would sell him. But you got to look at what we have at tight end. So we got Schultz and Gesicki, right?
We keep not getting good offers for either one of these guys.
Yeah. Yep. And no rookie tight end we bring in, even if we do get like a Michael Mayer with all of our picks, can't imagine that person's going to make that much noise. So I'm totally willing to hold on either of these tight ends until we get something that we're happy with. If Schultz goes to 0 on our roster, then so be it. He could still pop. I maybe wait to sell him after a blow up game, but
I gotta tell you, I mean, the last 2 weeks since Dak has been back, he's 11 catches on 12 targets.
Yeah,
I think he's kind of all the way back into gonna be one of the better tight ends, and so to me, hold him, and if somebody wants to pay more after a big game, then move that direction.
I'm interested to see what the remainder of the season has for Dalton Schultz and the whole Cowboys offense. I've been buying Lamb a few different spots. I have a lot of Tony Pollard. See what Michael Gallup can do. But the first half of the season was just, they won some games where they were very disheveled with injuries, and it seems like everyone's there now. Zeke's coming off an injury. I think he's going to play this week, but we'll see. But the Cowboys should be able to put it together down the rest of the way here. I'm thinking, I'm projecting. So.
I agree with you. So Jerick McKinnon.
Jerick McKinnon's a buy for me right now. I think, especially if you're one of those competitive rosters that's just like been running on receivers and quarterbacks, you just need someone to throw in your RB2. You could probably get Jerick McKinnon for like a 4th-round pick, and he just had his most snap share of the season. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had his least. You want guys in the Mahomes-osphere, and McKinnon looks good. He looks like old Jerick McKinnon, like back when he played for the Vikings and looked sharp. I can't speak to the longevity of this man, but for the last few games of fantasy here in the 22 season, like Jerick McKinnon, I think he's got something to say. That's just my opinion, but I do.
Yeah, I mean the Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Isaiah Pacheco both kind of not really showing their value this last week. I do think there is a chance that Jerick McKinnon ends up in the stretch run getting like 70% snap shares all of a sudden, and then you can play him. So like for me, I am all the way in on that proposition at the relatively low price. So looking further down our roster, so how do you feel about Brandon Ayuk and Devonta Smith? Are those guys you would trade in an effort to reduce our points without hurting our team next year? Are those guys you would trade for like Bateman plus or Ridley plus?
I mean, maybe Bateman plus, but like I'm not interested in Ridley at all ever.
Okay.
In any facet. Who do you got right now in your dynasty roster? Terrace Marshall or Calvin Ridley?
Terrace Marshall.
Yeah, me too. So I mean, I'm not interested in Ridley at all. But at this point, we're 4-5. That was something I wanted to mention. We just seem to keep winning in this league, even though we keep selling our players, and then we just win again. When your quarterback goes for 50 points or whatever, that helps. But
so that gets us to the other thing. We got Josh Allen.
Yep.
There is a press conference tomorrow, where the coach will be giving more Josh Allen news. We also have Case Keenum. If Allen is missing starts, is Keenum immediately a guy that goes on? Or at 4-5, do you want to make a run?
I mean, we just have tough games ahead. I think our game. I was looking at our game next week, and we're like 15-point dogs right now in terms of projection. But this guy Case Miz, I think we have his pick. Yeah, we do. So I'd love to beat him. So I definitely want to put my best foot forward.
I mean, we have our pick too, so it doesn't matter.
The ship has sailed on like us lowering our total points, though. I think, right? Because record is the first tiebreaker for draft position. Yeah, or is it strictly points for? I don't even know. It's like different from league to league. But
yeah, no.
I don't. We're not gonna have a top 3 pick, I don't think. But we're just kind of arbitraging it. We're gonna have so many first-round picks, it just doesn't matter. We're gonna be just full of talent, which I'm pretty excited for. But I'm not trying to move anyone on our roster that's like 25 or younger. I'm really not.
No, I get that. Unfortunately, yeah, we are only one game out of the playoffs.
Are we trying to buy anyone to compete harder? That might be a different question.
If Josh Allen is healthy, if we get good news and we're rolling Josh Allen, Justin Fields all the way in, then how do you feel about competing?
I mean, we can go get like a Patterson maybe, or like one of these other guys. Like I'm looking at the 1-8 team. Kenneth Gainwell's got Michael Carter. That might be someone worth going to get. Yeah, that's where we would need to make a move as a tailback, right? This other 1-8 team has Jamal Williams and Devin Singletary. He's got Rashod White. Rashod White.
Surely those are moves we could consider.
Yeah.
Would you consider some of those moves if we won this week?
Yeah, I would let this week play out.
If we got back to 5-5, are you higher?
Yeah, if I'm 5-5, I'm definitely talking to people and definitely hitting the DMs. Gonna do some rounds, see what we can't get a hold of. There's there's value to be had at tailback for sure in the dumpster. So we got to go dumpster diving.
Yeah, well, you gotta do stuff like hit on Jerick McKinnon. That's
Yeah.
how you get. That's how. It's amazing. Like we keep selling we keep selling a lot of our lottery tickets, and there's still a lottery ticket or two out there on our roster, right? Like,
Yeah.
but you never know. We could come out of this week, and Jerick McKinnon and Deion Jackson could be rest of season starters, right?
Sure.
You never know,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then that's how you. And Josh Allen is healthy, and all of a sudden you got something. But I do think we would struggle to compete, but might be worth making a fun run.
So that's a good segue, which we're talking about tailbacks. Like, and who is your dynasty running back one right now? Because you see Breece Hall's been hurt, Jonathan Taylor's fallen off, Najee's been hurt, DeAndre Swift has been in and out of the lineup. I mean, Javonte, we all know what happened to him. Like McCaffrey, I mean, he's getting older. Maybe he's the dynasty RB1 again. Saquon, but we've just seen so much turnover in the top like 10 dynasty running backs this season. So, what do you?
You give me a lot of names there. Can I give you a name you didn't give me? Who because you asked me before the show. Mm-hmm. I was thinking this is a name that occurred to me. We didn't mention it before the show. You didn't just mention it. How about Travis Etienne?
Smoke. I love it.
I mean,
not smoke in a bad way, like a good way. Is Travis Etienne the dynasty RB1?
So listen, I think there's a lot of consensus out there that the dynasty RB1, if he is available in your league format, is Bijan Robinson. Mm-hmm. And I don't love that, to be frank. I mean, like, we don't know how he's going to land. There's just a lot of stuff to take a guy who's not scoring points, right? But then the problem is the next guy would probably have been Breece Hall, and he's also not scoring points. And he may not be scoring points until longer from now than Bijan Robinson.
Yeah.
And then the next guy after that, like the two guys who came into the season were Taylor and Swift, and they've been a mess. And aren't really, like, it's not clear that either one of them is going to get it all right this season.
Yeah.
And so, like, when you're making this now versus later balance, there aren't a lot of runners who are doing well now and are not old. CMC is, like, in this conversation all of a sudden again. Saquon as well. Kenneth Walker. But for me, I think it's Hall, Walker, Etienne, Taylor. I think that's like order. my that's the tier.
That's for you.
And then what's kind of interesting is like if you're not competing and you have Etienne or Walker, I'm trying to get Breece Hall.
Yeah.
And then if you're competing and you have Breece Hall, are you interested in going and getting Etienne or?
If I'm competing and I could send Breece Hall for Walker straight across, I'd love to do that. I just don't know if that owner would allow me to.
I have offered that.
Yeah.
On a Walker team, and they didn't take it.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I own Walker everywhere. On a lot of bad teams too.
No, that's what I'm saying. No. I offered Walker straight across, and the Breece owner did not take it.
Yeah, no, and the Breece Hall owner is the competitive team, and you're like the
yes. I own Walker on a team that's headed to 101, and I offered it to the Breece owner who was in like fourth place.
No, I hit accept on that. I would have
smashed. And they turned me down.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And on a different team, I have offered Etienne for Breece and been turned down.
Yeah.
So the Breece owner has not given me those moves. I think I would make those.
I think so too. I mean, I'll be the first. I love Kenneth Walker, and I'm perfectly confident saying Kenneth Walker is my dynasty running back one right now. If you told me I could have any tailback in the whole league to start my fantasy team with, my dynasty team, you have to take a tailback. I will take Kenneth Walker the third for the Seattle Seahawks, number 9, gonna be the rookie of the year, I think. That's the guy I want, Kenneth Walker. I think he's got all the juice. The offenses look great. Geno's leading them. I mean, it is a tier, and I would have Etienne and Hall all in that tier as well. I think I would still have Taylor in that tier. And I think that's probably. I don't even know if I
I
would have
probably want
Taylor.
Breece in a vacuum. Like if
Yeah.
I probably want Breece in a vacuum.
Mhm.
If you told me if you told me I could have either player,
Yeah.
but you didn't tell me whether my team was going to be competitive or not, I think I would take Breece.
That's fair. I just love Kenneth Walker so much, so I'm just gonna
I
keep
know,
banging the drum for him.
I love him. He's
Yeah.
great. He's great. And ETN has blown up so much.
It's tough when you're talking about Breece's ACL, though, man. I mean, guys come back from that and they're healthy. Sure, it happens all the time. But like, look what happened to J.K. Dobbins. This has just been a disaster with him since he got hurt. And I don't know. There's plenty of bad stories around it too. So like,
you're totally right. You're totally right.
as long as Walker's still in, good condition, he's my guy. Would you rather have Kenneth Walker or Bijan, or Etienne or Bijan, or Breece or Bijan?
I mean,
on a bad team, your team sucks. You're bad.
Team's awful. I'd probably take Bijan. take Bijan. If your team is awful and absolutely this year's points don't matter at all, then it's Bijan. Because you're buying the extra years. And that's worth so much, right? Like, and with Bijan, the other thing with Bijan, he's going to get a first-round draft capital, which means he's going to get the 5-year contract.
Yeah, he's going to be a late fifth or late first with the 5-year contract. So, like, well, that means he's probably going to land on a contender. I mean, barring any trades and shenanigans, those teams in the back half of the first round, someone's going to make a luxury type pick on Bijan.
Probably, yes.
Who's a team that could do that? I just want to throw someone out there.
I mean, so many teams.
The Ravens, the Ravens just land Bijan. You know what I mean? Like they could do that.
The Eagles.
Yeah, that'd be nuts.
Miles Sanders is going into as well.
The Chiefs could spend another first on a tailback. They could do it. I mean, he'd be great.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
He could land a million different places. He could, like, literally any team in the league could draft him. So at any point, he could be. Someone could use a top 10 pick on him. Even maybe. It's gonna be weird this upcoming year because it's gonna be like. I think a lot of this is going to be all these good tailbacks are going to force each other down the list a little bit, down the draft board, like Taylor and Swift and Clyde did the year they came out.
A little bit,
yeah,
a little bit. Although unlike that year, there's a clear number one this year.
Sure.
But there are a lot of good tailbacks. This is a very good draft.
Yeah.
By the way, this is also the second consecutive really good tight end draft. I've been starting to dig into this class. I'm really excited about the tight end class. It is not a one tight end.
I only know Mayer. Is there a tight end? Who's the tight end beyond Mayer that I should know for this year?
Gosh, there are a couple.
I know Brock Bowers, and then he's like 2 years away though. He's a 24 candidate, so I don't know. That's it.
Darrell Washington. There are. There are a couple of them. One for Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, I'll slip in my mind right now. But I watched a little film on a couple of them, and I was impressed with the depth of the class. I've just started to get out some film on some of these guys.
Yeah,
and I was impressed with a couple of the guys. With explosiveness. Let's see. I'm getting out some of what I looked at.
All right, man. Anything else we got for our listeners today? We can keep it a little brief. Get you out of here under an hour.
Starting out Washington, Georgia is the one. Yeah, no, I think we're good.
I
think we are good.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, guys. Thank you for your time. Thanks for sticking with us. Leave a comment on who you got as a Dynasty RB1 right now. I'm interested to know especially if it's not Bijan. I want to see what the community likes. Thank you so much. Enjoy your week, guys. Enjoy week 10 upcoming. Good luck. Good luck in your push. And take care, y'all.